Hey guys, it's Brian and Mitch again with Shielded Voices. We're back with Adam Meyers. Just FYI, Mitch is playing producer on this. He's having some technical issues, so thankfully I've got a face for radio, and I guess I'll kind of lead this, and Mitch will chime in when he can. So Adam, welcome back, man. It's been great thus far. I'd like to kind of recap where we were. You were coming up to this. Your agency gave you 90 days, and I got to be honest, man. I'm blown away by this. They were nice enough to give you this 90 days, and at the end of the 90 days, you had a choice: you be terminated or quit. But if you're willing, I'd like to back up a little bit and kind of talk more about some of the other coping mechanisms you use that obviously weren't healthy, right? That and why? Like there were some anxieties about going to work. It sounds like just in our conversation earlier. So if you wouldn't mind, man, if you just kind of dive into that and let us know what was going on.
Sure. There was one time, I believe it was 4th of July weekend, and I really didn't want to work. One of the things that I noticed with my trauma is fireworks kind of bother me occasionally. Some years are worse than others, but with the 4th of July coming on, I just basically wanted to stay at home, but I knew I was going to have to work a long week and a long weekend and the holiday, and I was thinking about a way to get out of it. So what I did was I took a 12-inch crescent wrench and I hit my knee a few times, enough to see redness and bruising and abrasions, and then I went to the local hospital.
Hold on. I'm going to hold back up.
Okay.
So you're sitting at home. You have like take home car. You're like, you go to work from home at this point.
Right. Yep.
And you're so anxiety ridden about just going back to work that like you're causing self-injury to have an excuse to not go back to work.
Yeah, that's what I did because, over time I thought I can't keep going to work saying I can't be here, or I can't keep using the excuse I don't feel good, I'm sick, and calling in. So I had to come up with something new. And that's what I did that 4th of July week, that 4th of July weekend, as I had that 12-inch crescent wrench and struck my knee a few times, enough that I knew that if I would go into the emergency room, which I did, that they would see an injury, they would x-ray me, which they did. They gave me some pain meds. They gave me crutches and wrapped my knee. And then I got out of work on the 4th of July weekend.
You hit yourself hard enough that they're giving you pain meds, because they don't just hand pain meds out anymore. Like you must have really walloped yourself.
I did. And
man,
what hurts me the most now, and why I do feel shame about a lot of the things I did, was because I lied. I lied to my chief that supported me at the time. I let my brothers and sisters down by lying and not working a shift, so somebody else had to cover for me. But at the time, I didn't care. It was all about me. I was selfish. It was all about me. Instead of just saying, you know what, the 4th of July is triggering for me. I can't be in. I don't understand it all, but I can't work. I thought I have to make something else up because I kept using those excuses over and over again. So that's what I did. And I lied to my chief at the time and said, I still remember, I told him that I walked out the back door of my house, slipped on the steps, and hit my knee on the manhole cover that's in the backyard for like the septic tank. And that's what caused the injury. And I got out of work.
Wow. And this is, like, there's always that. For people in the LE community, I mean, that's why, like for me, I've got 700 plus hours of sick time banked up because I don't call in sick.
Yep.
You Charlie Mike, you continue the mission because you don't want to let your teammates down, right?
Right.
You don't, like, as if I call in sick now somebody else got to cover my district on top of their pick your reasoning. So man, I totally understand where you're coming from. Is that of feeling horrible about that, right? Because those are our people.
Right. And I've always been the kind of person that even if I really am truly sick, it sometimes takes me hours to call in because number one, I don't think people are going to believe me.
Right.
Especially if
Stigma.
You call in on a Friday or a weekend. And
Mm-hmm.
number two, I don't want to let people down. People depend on me. They need me to be at work. And even when I'm truly sick, it takes me a long time to call in. And I remember, a girlfriend at the time or my ex-wife at the time saying, Adam, you're sick, call in. Who cares what people think? Well, I do,
Yeah.
because I don't want to let people down. And I don't want people to think negatively upon me calling in sick, even when I'm truly sick. But it came to that I just didn't care. I hurt myself to make sure I got all the work, and it worked, and I didn't have to work. So I mean, it's
We've been blessed enough that mental health is a sickness. I use air quotes, right? To where we can take certain days off, sick days, because of our own mental health. So I've definitely utilized that a lot going through PTSD or depression episodes. I knew that I could not show up to work and do my job effectively in the current mindset that I'm in.
right. And there were many times that I knew I shouldn't be at work, but I geared up and went to work, jumped in the
Correct.
squad, and went and hid around the building, hid so nobody knew I was there, and just basically wrote out my shift, hoping and praying I wouldn't get a call.
Yeah. Or
Because
you take that call and you sit on that call for a long time because it's
right.
easy, and you don't want to engage with the public or engage with anyone. So you'll sit in that parking lot, or
Right.
you sit in the office, and supervisors get mad at you. And it's like, hey, what are you doing? It's like, I'm working on this report. Well, you've been working on it for 2 hours. It's like, just mentally, I'm not there, but I'm here at work, and I shouldn't be at work.
And that should be okay. And it's by and large across the LD community or culture, it's not. Now you're seen as lazy, your short calls. If people could just, I'll just say it square, like if people could just pull their head out of their own ass and have some awareness, and again, I go back to that locking arms and think maybe something else is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, just maybe. And it goes back to that being there for each other thing, but there's a stigma around that, like we talked about.
I should have been able to go to work and talk to a supervisor and say, I don't understand what's going on, but I know I can't be here, instead of hurting myself and lie and creating this story so I don't have to go to work. That takes more effort. I hurt myself. I get out of work. I had a doctor's excuse, so they weren't going to make me work. So the end result was I didn't have to be there, which is what I wanted. But that shouldn't be that way. That shouldn't even be in your thought process. If you're going to work and for whatever reason you're just not mentally right, or even if you don't understand what's going on, you should be able to go to your supervisor and say, hey, I don't get it. I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but I'm sorry, I can't be here today. And that should be okay. You should be able to do that, but you can't because of that stigma. You're worrying about what other people are going to think. You're going to worry about being judged. It's that stigma, and that shouldn't be in your thought process. You should be able to be honest about what you're thinking and what you're going through without worrying about losing your job, being judged, anything like that.
I agree. And it also takes a true leader to recognize it's the lived experiences that you and I have had, Adam, that we can recognize that people are going through something. And as a leader, should be able to recognize that too and not fault that person. And it's going back to what we talked about is, I've shared my story with other officers, deputies, and you can see a look in their eye that you can recognize yourself that they are going through their own traumas and their own issues, their own suffering, but they're not ready to talk about it. But it's people like you and I that have lived through those experiences.
Well, I speak a lot in person. I speak at colleges. I've spoken at jails, sheriff's departments, and I remember speaking in 2022 at a sheriff's department in service, and one of the corrections officers came up to me during the break, and he said, Adam, keep doing what you're doing, because they say they support us, but they don't. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk.
That's right.
And that's when you need to be there for each other.
Yes.
You need to be able to know it's okay to talk about your mental health, because everybody's going through something. If it's not work related, it's home related, and all that is connected. All of that is just intermingled. And if you have
compound that, right? Compound.
Right.
I've got a, like I got years ago, I was on my way to work, and we don't have take home vehicles, right? I was on my way to work. And when I say on my way to work, it's a 45-minute commute. Like I live in the metro area. So you can't, it's a commute because of traffic. And on my way to work, I got pulled over by a neighboring agency. And the officer was horrible, to be quite honest. I was so taken aback about the lack of professionalism. And I say but because even then, I knew in my brain, because I know I do the same job. For all I know, he got up this morning and his wife left him.
Right.
Right? So you compound that. You go through these personal issues at home that we don't know about. And it's not our business, and I'm not saying it is. But for the general public, I've always just asked, please understand, we're human. We have emotions. We have very bad days at home. And we have to come to work and put on a smile and be professional across the board on all levels. And you cannot make a mistake. Because if you make a mistake and it's caught on camera, and I'm not talking about a detrimental mistake. Let's say I drop an F-bomb during a fight. Let's say I'm snippy with somebody and somebody's videoing that with their camera. And that's all the agency sees or the public sees. You're hung out. You're evil. Yep. And it's like, hold on a minute. This person you don't know what they just came from. And I think as humans across the board, we should take that into consideration for our fellow man. Not just cops, right, but people, period, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you do this, you essentially, you bash your knee. How many days will you just take? Was it just the weekend and you were back to work?
I want to say it was like a Wednesday, Thursday, and I got the rest of the week and the weekend off and then went back to work.
Yeah.
So,
and were there other... Go ahead.
Enough to not have to work that holiday, 4th of July holiday
to
weekend,
deal.
So,
right.
Yep.
And were there other time? Was that kind of just a one-off for you, or were there other instances throughout this time period leading up to this 90 days off, right? This is all prior to that 90 days off, correct?
Correct. There was one time that, I actually started thinking about it when I was taking a shower, before gearing up for work. I thought, I don't want to go to work today. What can I do? And taking a shower, put my uniform on, duty belt on, got all geared up, ready to go. And the way I drove to work, I passed a Burger King. So what I did was I went through the Burger King drive-thru and ordered a whole bunch of breakfast food, a couple orange juices, and I binged ate all that food. Then I continued on and stopped at a McDonald's and did the same thing. So my whole thought process was, I'm going to eat all this food. You got to have the drinks to make it come out, make yourself throw up and make it come out easier. So my plan was to binge eat Burger King and then McDonald's, then go to work, which I did. And, once I parked my car and walked into the police department, I was like, made sure everybody saw that I was kind of under the weather and not feeling well. And when I went into the bathroom, I even made sure the bathroom door was slightly open, and I made myself throw up and even missed the toilet a little bit. So it was on the floor, and then they immediately sent me home.
So you had evidence, right? You're thinking that, wow.
Yep.
And for those that are listening, this is not an obese man sitting in front of me, people. This is not an obese man sitting in front of me. Wow.
So I did that with the intentions of getting sent home, because if you throw up, you're sick, so you can't be at work. And I made sure that everybody knew I threw up, knew that I missed the toilet, the door was open. I set everything up. Everything was in play from the moment I was taking a shower that morning to the moment I hit Burger King and McDonald's and then went to the police department. And that was all just a big lie. It was all a scam to get out of work. Yet again, I should have been able to go in and say, I can't be here. I need help. I don't get what's going on, but I just can't do it. But did I? No, I made up this elaborate plan to get out of work when I could have simply walked in and said, I'm having problems.
But would they have given you help if you would have done it? What, I guess for lack of a better term, the right way, right? Well, I will just say it that way. because it sounds like, again, the typical LE culture. Would you have gotten help, or were you fearing that stigma?
I was fearing the stigma. I wasn't entirely sure. I mean, when I was terminated, it was a different chief, and I respected him and I admired him. But it wasn't the same chief that was with me during my shooting and after my shooting. So I really didn't know that much of him. And then when the former chief retired, I knew that chief supported me 100%. I knew he would be there because he had been there for me. And then when he retired, I felt like I lost a part of myself. I felt like I lost the only person that I truly believed supported me and would defend me. And then I had a new chief. I had no reason to believe that the new chief wouldn't, but I didn't know that much about him. I had worked with the other chief for 10, 12 years. So I knew him, and I went through a lot of crap with him, and we had heart-to-hearts about the struggles I was facing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he supported me. And then when he was gone, I was like, what's going to happen now? I felt like the one true person that supported me left, and I had nobody. So I didn't
and
know
it sounds like, how big is this agency? Just for perspective, like how big is this agency? You said it's Racine?
No, this is a different agency. This is
okay.
It's about 3.5, 4 hours away.
Okay.
The population of the community is about 7,000.
Okay.
At the time, we had a chief, two sergeants, a corporal, a detective. We had a canine.
Okay.
24-hour coverage. Multiple officers on every shift.
Okay.
And it was located between two bigger communities.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So wow. I can imagine, that can almost, I mean, you feel like it's like a loss, right? It's almost like a career funeral. I mean, he's just retiring, but,
Right.
And I have to ask, are you still in contact with him today?
I'm not. When he retired, I didn't communicate with him anymore.
Okay.
I'm also not in communication with anybody at the police department anymore. I feel like I've just been completely ghosted. And
right.
what I mean by that, an example of that is, we were all friends on Facebook. And after I was terminated, nobody reached out, nobody emailed me, nobody called, text, nothing. And then I want to say it was probably about 9 months later, and I realized, I'm like, you know what? They're all friends on Facebook with me, but they're not friends. They're not reaching out to me. They're not asking me how I am. I worked with them for 14 years. We went on calls that we could have lived or died on. They knew me. They knew my family. They helped me move. I love these guys and gals. They were my brothers and sisters. And then something like this happens, and they kind of wash their hands of me, and I don't hear from them anymore.
And it's the bullshit stigma and stigma is such an ambiguous term.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, right? Because people, I hear you. It's so frustrating and infuriating. And how many, I know so many guys and gals that we work with, former military. I'm former military, right?
Yep.
That bond that you create.
Yeah.
Like, I was in the military in 1990 to 1998. I still know people I was in the military. You know what I mean? Like, why is it's so different in LE?
Yeah, I'm at the verge right now of crying. I got that tickle in my throat, the little itchy, runny nose, because I loved working there. I loved being a cop there.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it. It's like, either. Was all that even real? Did they really even give a shit about me?
Right.
Because I needed them more than ever before. And when this happened to me, it was just, that was it.
And there's, world according to Brian, they're scared. They're scared because of the stigma, because of the culture. They don't want to get involved. They want to protect themselves in their own little bubble. Well, buckle up, baby, because in that job, your bubble is not you. It's the person on your left and the person on your right. And it drives me nuts that we can, the three of us, I've known you for 2 hours. I promise you, if we're sitting in a restaurant together and shit is about to go down, you and I have got each other's back. It's Okay.
Absolutely. 100%.
Right? The definition of fuck around and find out. Here we go, people.
Yep.
And then, and again, you dedicate years of your life to an agency, to the people you work with, to when you're, let's say, cast out of the agency, bye, you're gone. Like after everything we just went through, it makes me angry. It hurts, and it makes me angry to hear about.
And several months after I was terminated, I spoke at a college near my old police department, and I spoke to the recruit academy there because my daughter was in the recruit school there, and I shared my experience. And then shortly after that, I got a letter from the police department's attorney saying that I shared unfactual information about my termination, that I told everybody that they terminated me because of my mental health, which I never said. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. This guy is struggling with mental health. He went on a 90-day leave of absence to what? To better himself, to get his mental health in check, to go back to work, and then he was terminated. I never said they fired me for mental health, but anybody who listens to my experience and my story, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out.
No, it's common sense.
Even to this day, there's a handful of officers up north that have reached out to me, not at that police department, but from other agencies that didn't even know I left that agency. They thought I still worked there. And they're like, well, I reached out because I thought you were still a detective, and they said that you haven't worked there for 2 years. I'm like, so are they keeping it quiet? I mean, what's going on?
Wow.
It's been 2 years, but it still hurts. It really hurts because I feel like I've just been abandoned.
And all for, and hearing this on the outside, this is so that agency can protect their own perception. Unless I'm wrong. I could be off base, but it sure sounds to me like it came down to the wire, and the only thing that matters is they protect the perception that they have of themselves or what the public has. And if that means hanging you out for it, that's exactly what they're going to do, and that's exactly what they did. And it's horse shit. I just, I don't know. I mean, I'm not one for lawsuits, but it sure sounds like a lawsuit to me. I mean, wow. That's, I don't know, man. I'm still just jaw dropped that the callousness of that.
Well, see, I have the letter in front of me, and part of the letter said, specifically, Mr. Meyers made the allegation that he was terminated due to his mental health. As you are aware, this information is factually inaccurate and detrimental to the police department when presented to a group of potential recruits. It also says, the police department will take whatever actions are available to them if this type of behavior continues in the future, basically trying to shut me up and not talk about my experience. And I have documents supporting everything I'm sharing with you. It's just, it hurts. It really, really hurts because I feel abandoned and just discarded. And I was there for 14 years and I love working there. I bent over backwards. I did. And then I struggled and I feel like I was just kicked to the curb.
Cast aside. You're a number.
Right. And not only kicked the curb from the police department, but from my insurance company. For years, I pay insurance. So if I get into a situation like this, I have money to help me out. I didn't have money to help. If I'd have broke my arm or broke my leg, they would have cashed out, gave me a check, took care of stuff, everything. But because it's mental health, now it's all questionable.
Right.
People knew I wasn't bullshitting. It's the truth. Right. I suffered in silence for years because of that stigma, because I didn't want to lose my job. I wanted to keep fighting. I didn't know what to do. And then I feel like I was just completely abandoned.
Yeah, I suffered and I spoke up. And there were a lot of shoulder shrugs when it came to, workers' comp. It's an on-the-job injury, and it's like, well, we don't really know how to handle this. Or it was, well, it's protected now, but we don't know what to do. Right. So there's not a whole lot of knowledge around that.
I applied for workers' compensation. I want to say it was the end of February or March 2022. It's almost 2025, and I haven't heard anything.
Jeez.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean, I do get it. If it was a physical injury, I would have been paid. Because it was mental health, everything's questionable.
Yeah, and that's shocking. Mine was approved in a month, and that was after having a PTSD episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and work finding out about it, and I think things got expedited, and I don't know.
You know, we have always, I can tell you, having, you know, been in law enforcement for 16 years on the West Coast, the thought process is there is such a vast difference in the law enforcement, some of the levels of law enforcement culture between the West Coast and the East Coast, and some of this, like some of the stuff you're saying, is just it rings true, because the stuff that you're saying would never happen here. Yeah. Like, it just wouldn't. Not in my experience. I'm not right. A professional, right? But not in my experience, and that's why it's so. It shocks the soul, to be
it's
quite
very
honest.
Shocking. Yeah,
to hear this.
And even with the things I've gone through, I still have that shame, because I would love, and I'm sure there's probably police departments within the county I work for right now that know my story, that know what I went through and stuff like that. But I would love to reach out to them and say, hey, I went through this. If you want me to come and talk to your officers, let me know and I'll do it. Mm-hmm. But there's also a part of me that doesn't want to, because I'm worried about they're going to judge me.
Right.
They're going to be like, this guy shouldn't be a cop. What, he's a captain?
Right.
He shouldn't be. So I'm kind of, I would love to reach out to everybody in my county and say, hey, I want to share my experience with you. So if somebody on your department struggles, you can get help. Mm-hmm. I mean, my biggest thing is I tell everybody, it's okay to talk about your mental health. Mm-hmm. You are not alone. Please don't suffer in silence, because you're not the only one that goes through this stuff. You know, some people may have already, or they will, or they know somebody who has.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Right.
Mitch and I have said, there is no cop alive. Now, they can sit there and maybe it doesn't affect them the same way it does other people. Sure. Right. But there is no cop alive that can do even a partial career and not be a different person than when they started. It's not. I don't think it's possible. Scientifically, psychologically speaking, I don't think it's possible. You can't see that much death, destruction. You can't taste the iron in the blood and the smells. And come out the same person. I'm not saying it makes you a bad person. You're just not the same person. You're not the same version of who you were.
Well, it's interesting you say the iron in the blood, because I had dreams that I know are related to my shooting. Like the very first dream that I had was I was running into a retail store and my family and friends were in there and something bad was about to happen. And I was trying to get their attention, and I was inches away from them saying, you got to leave, you got to go, something bad's going to happen. And they didn't even know I was there. Another dream I had was I got dispatched to a call. I was in a squad car in uniform in a city I didn't recognize, but whatever route I took, whatever road I was in, I couldn't get to where I was supposed to go. I could see my destination in the distance, but I just couldn't get there. But the very first dream that I knew was directly related to my shooting happened 5 years and 7 months after my shooting. And what it was is I was inside a medical clinic I didn't recognize. And there was somebody on the outside, a man on the outside trying to get inside the building. And he was trying to enter through a door. And the best I could, I tried holding that door closed, but he forced his way in. And he had a very, very large knife. And he finally was able to get inside, and he presented that knife to me. And the only way that I could stop him from stabbing me was to wrap my hands around the blade. And I could feel the tearing, the ripping. I could smell the iron in the blood, the wetness. And we fell down to the ground. And I said, why are you doing this? And he goes, I'm going to kill you because you killed the person I killed.
Got it.
And then while we were struggling, there were two female officers that came in and sat down next to us. And I'm like, help me. Why aren't you helping me? And then one of the officers looked at me and said, why should we help you? And then I woke up. I woke up in a cold sweat, anxiety. But I knew right then, 5 years and 7 months later, I finally had a dream that I knew was directly related to my shooting. And that was 5 years and 7 months later.
Yeah, the brain.
I went to bed fine. I wasn't drinking that night. It just happened.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, this stuff comes on when you least expect it.
Yeah. Wow. So, wow. So let's talk about then. So you get this 90 days. Bring us back to. You said you're sitting. So I guess reiterate. So at the end of this 90 days, now this is a different chief that you're sitting in front of at this point, right? Because we'll say the leader, he's already retired, and good for him, right?
Yep.
Just hearing you talk about, I would love to meet this man, and I would shake his hand right now. So if you could walk us, what's that?
Chief Smokowitz retired in towards the end of 2021.
Please tell me he moved to Florida or something.
No, he's still in Wisconsin.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah,
okay,
he's still in Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
But
okay.
Yeah, he retired near the end of 2021. Before I had a panic attack and before I, said I quit, I ain't going to do this anymore. And
right.
But the 90-day leave of absence, that was with a new chief, and I had a meeting with him. I went into his office along with the supervisor that gave me the order to stop talking about my personal mental health experience. And there were 2 letters on his desk, and one was a resignation letter and one was a termination letter. And he told me that they were not extending my 90-day leave of absence, that I could either resign or I'd be terminated. And I chose not to resign, so I was terminated.
Yeah, I mean,
after being there for 14 years, after receiving multiple awards, after never being disciplined or suspended, just like that, I was done. And
then what do you do? What's the thought process? I can't even. Well, I can't. I'll be quite honest with you. I can't imagine. I've lived it, not to that extreme yet. But what's the thought process? So now you're. Like you mentioned, you're now essentially now you're being escorted because you're a terminated employee. So now you're being escorted because you're a detective at this point, right?
Right.
So now you're being escorted to clean your shit out and be like, bye-bye, Felicia.
Yep. So the supervisor our sergeant walked me to my detective office where I started putting stuff in boxes. He even went and grabbed a couple more boxes for me. And, he was cordial. He was decent. Walked me out of the police department, helped carry some of my boxes out. And one of the last things he said to me was, maybe you can speak more now that you don't work here. And then I thought, is that what this is all about? And then I left.
But him saying that speaks volumes.
Right.
Of the administration and the agency, right?
Right. So then I went home and I was devastated. I didn't know what to do. I reached out to my sister who lived, 3.5 hours away, and decided to move away. And, I didn't have much money or anything. And my sister, she's a blessing from God, because she said, all you have to do is get down here and we'll figure it all out. And I moved in with my sister in the basement, started looking for jobs. I had multiple jobs because all I knew was being a cop. I was a cop for 20 years. That's all I knew. That's what my training was. That's what my schooling was.
Right.
So at the time, I wasn't seeing a counselor anymore. I wasn't on medicine anymore. And my sister noticed changes in me and knew that I needed to get back into therapy and I needed to get back on medicine and kind of behind my back, which I'm okay with. I don't fault her. She was kind of doing research and trying to find therapists in the area to help me. I knew I needed to do it, but I wasn't going to do it.
God bless that woman. God bless that woman.
So now every Monday at 5:00, I see a therapist. Every morning I wake up, take a leak, pop a pill. I take Lexapro, 20 milligrams.
Yeah.
It works for me. It's great. I also take propranolol, which is a blood pressure medicine. I take it as needed. I haven't taken that in probably 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, I'm a police captain, and I take medication, and I see a therapist, and so what? It's okay.
Yeah,
it
okay.
helps me.
So how did you get to I like? Because I can tell you here, you get terminated from an agency, you ain't gonna be a cop anywhere.
Right.
You got
And
terminated.
the thing is, and when I was terminated, to be honest with you, Brian, I didn't even know if I wanted to be a cop anymore. With all the shit I went through, I didn't even know if I wanted to.
Right.
I didn't know. I just didn't know. I thought I was done. Nobody's going to hire me anymore. I'm not even going to apply, because during the interview process, they're going to do a background check. They're going to ask you, why were you terminated? Well, because of mental health. I'm screwed. Nobody wants me. Nobody's even going to take a chance. And like I said, I didn't even know if I wanted to be a police officer anymore. But once I got back into therapy, got back onto medicine, started working through stuff, after about a year, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I want to be a cop again. I still want to be a police officer. I have a lot to offer. I have a lot of training and experience. I have experience that most officers don't, because I did kill somebody in the line of duty, because I did struggle with mental health. I can still do this job. And at the same time, I was struggling with duty disability. A lot of people were saying I should apply for duty disability, through the state and get a disability check. And there were even doctors that said, yeah, I think you might be 50 to 75% disabled. And I'm thinking, I'm not disabled. I can work.
Right.
I can work. I'm not disabled. So, but after going through therapy and getting back on medicine, I started applying at police departments again. And what I did was I sent out 50 cover letters, 50 state applications to agencies in like a 30-minute driving distance. And I mailed them out. And the next day, a police department called. That first month, 17 police departments called. There was a time where in a 2-week period, 3 agencies from 3 different counties offered me conditional offers of employment. And I picked where I work now. And I got hired, went through training, and quickly was promoted to captain. And that's where I am today. And the reason why I am where I am today is because I put myself first. I took care of myself first. I said, you know what? I've been a cop for 20 plus years. It's still who I am. It doesn't matter what job I have. I'm still a good person. I would still help somebody if I wore a badge or not. But once I got healthy, it's like, yeah, I still want to be a cop because I put myself first. That's why I am where I am today.
And it's, we all get wrapped up in, and you said it yourself, right? You're out of this cop job and you're like, holy shit, this is all I know how to do.
Yeah.
That's a stigma in and itself, because the fact of the matter is the daily duties of your average cop that covers management, the skills that officers and deputies have that would translate into the civilian sector is enormous. I mean, it's almost infinite. I mean, with what we're tasked with every day. And
a lot of people ask me, tell me about yourself, Adam. Oh, I'm a cop. No, that's your job. Tell me about you. Tell me about you.
Bingo. And
it's like, well, I'm a cop. Well, no, you're a dad. You're a son. What do you like to do for hobbies? What do you like to do for fun? Yes. We know you're a cop. That's your job. But tell me about Adam.
Well, and how many people, I brought this up in an earlier episode, right? You first become a cop or your friends are proud of you and they introduce you at a barbecue. Hey, it's my buddy Brian. He's a cop.
Yep.
And I don't go, hey, this is my buddy Billy. He's a plumber. You know what I mean? Like, it's that. It's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a Christian. I love motocross. I love mixed martial arts. I love archery hunting. If somebody tries to take my archery hunting for elk in Oregon away from me, I will fight them to the death. I will absolutely fight you. That's who we are as people. Yep. What we do for a living is not our legacy.
Right. I really struggled with that, though, because,
you bet.
When I got terminated, people would ask me, what do you like to do for fun? And I'm like, I don't know. I really love being a cop. that was like really who I was and what I did and what I prided myself in. And now all that is gone. But it wasn't, because I'm so much more than just my job.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to be a cop forever. I'm 49 years old. So in a few more years, I'll probably retire. And then what am I going to do? A lot of other things. You know, I'm not just a cop. I'm so much more.
I'll be honest, Adam. I'm actually, I'm 52. I started this career late in life. I've been at this. It'll be 16 years in February. I'm excited for what's next. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I think God's got a plan, and man, I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I don't know what it is, but I'm okay with it. And there are so many people. I mean, look at the statistics of people, not even just in law enforcement, right? People that retire and then they die.
Right.
Because that's all they know. They put all their eggs into working. It's like, now, everybody that knows me knows there are bigger bull elk in northern Arizona. That's where I'm going to live because it's warmer. I'm not dealing with this rain bullshit that we have in Oregon for 9 months a year. And I can kill some giant bull elk. Cool. My wife can come or she can't. It's up to her. I told her that. Follow me or don't. That's where I'm going. So, but, well, good, man. It's so obviously you've come through this. You apply at these agencies. You've come through all these adversities. And what would you attribute you're getting healthier to? What, like, was there a defining moment like where you're like, I'm done with this shit. It's time to get healthy?
I don't think there was one defining moment. I think that moment in the squad car when I said, forget it, I'm done, I quit. I think that was, for whatever reason, I realized right then that things weren't working for me anymore. And if I wanted to continue to be a police officer, I needed to start working on myself and getting better. And I didn't know how to do that because I struggled and suffered in silence for so many years. Poor coping, alcohol, drugs, sex, self-harm. But I think that was the time that I needed help. And like you said, God putting you on a path, I truly believe I went through all that shit because of what I'm doing right now. I'll give up my badge and captain bars tomorrow if I have to, but I'm not going to stop doing this. This is more important than almost anything.
The book of James 1:1-5 talks about trials and perseverance, and like the two books that I use so much on duty when talking to people, what we call clients, the people that we deal with, the public, right? James 1:1-5, and then Romans 5, where James 1 talks about without trials we have no perseverance. Without perseverance we don't have character. Without character we don't have any hope. And you translate that into the book of Romans, our hope is all we have.
Right.
And it's because of the trials we go through. The beginning is trials, the end is character. If we don't go through trials, we wouldn't build any character whatsoever and persevere and have that hope. So I agree with you, right? It's just to me, it's a biblical testament that just in talking to you, Adam, I wholeheartedly believe that let's make no mistake, God doesn't put bad things on us.
Yeah.
The adversary does that, but God takes those bad things and turns them into this. Turns them into good things.
I agree with you, Brian, because there was many times when I went to bed and I prayed to God I wouldn't wake up.
Yeah,
when I was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
My duty weapon is a 40 caliber Glock Model 22. I easily put my gun to my head a dozen times. Easily.
Jesus.
Oh.
Mainly when I was intoxicated. But what I would do is I'd remove the magazine and clear the chamber and put my gun to my temple, and I just wanted to hear that metallic click. Wow. I really didn't have any intention of dying by suicide, but I did that. But then I think, how many times did I do that when I was so intoxicated that I don't remember?
Oh.
What if I would have accidentally not cleared the chamber? So that's a possibility. But I totally believe that God helped me get through all this so I can do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And
amen.
It is important work. And I want people to know that it's not easy for me to sit and spill my guts about everything. I hear it from a lot of people. Oh, it's so great what you're doing, and it's so brave of you, and you're resilient, and yeah. But after we're done talking here, I'll go in my room and be like, man, did I say this? And kind of get a little anxious and worried that people are going to judge me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not enough for me not to do this, because it's so important. It's really, really important to get the word out there that it's okay if you're struggling with mental health.
Yeah.
There's so many resources out there. Not only that, is if you know somebody who is, with technology nowadays, you can text them, you can email them, you can.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to say, hey, buddy, I'm thinking about you.
Yep.
If you need
Yep.
anything, let me know. But people don't even do that. I mean, that's
they're scared. They're scared.
Yeah. It takes what, 10 seconds? Hey, buddy, I'm thinking about you. Let me know if you need something. Hit that send button. And they don't even do that. So
I'm living through that right now.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
If you can't face to face, hide behind your phone, hide behind your email, but
Right.
still reach out and let them know that you're thinking of them and that you care about them, because that really means a lot. Even if they don't admit it does, it does.
Yeah.
That really helps.
It's funny. You find out in a hurry, right? All of these things that we've talked about, being on administrative leave or mental health issues or that cast out, you find out, and I mentioned this in previous episodes, you find out in a hurry who your friends are and who they aren't.
Right.
Because the people that reach out to you, in my experience, are the ones that you would have never thought would have reached out to you. The people that don't, you're like, what the hell?
Well, and something that I struggle with too, and I know that day's coming, is my daughters still live up north near that community. So, and I go and visit them, often. So I know that eventually I'm going to go up and bump into somebody from the police department at a grocery store. Yep. What am I going to say? I don't know. Am I going to ignore them? Am I going to be cordial? Hey, how you doing? I'm still really hurt, and it's been years. I just, to be abandoned like that, when you really, truly cared for these people and it feels like they don't even give a shit about you, it hurts.
It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yep.
The other thing, I know, easier said than done, but forgiveness is not about them. It's about us, right? It's
Right.
about being able to forgive. What I try to do, the people that have, we'll say, wronged me or whatever, even in this profession, what I try to think of is like, well, here I'm dealing with my own traumas or my own experiences, and I don't know their traumas.
True.
And I try to remember that, instead of, it's okay to be hurt, but in the hurt, I try to remember, you know what? They're hurt too. I bet you they're hurt too. I just don't know how.
Right.
I just give it to God. Like it's because I can tell you, I'm not the man that I was 6 months ago, 7 months ago. I'm not that same guy. I'm not. People listening to this that know me, they're going to be like, bullshit, because they've known me for so long. But but I'm telling you,
that's the thing with me too. I don't have casual sex. I don't abuse alcohol. I don't smoke marijuana. I learned from that, and I learned that it didn't work for me. And in order for me to have to continue a successful career in law enforcement, you gotta stay away from that stuff, because it doesn't do you any good.
No, and what's crazy is like I am a proponent. I'm with you. When I went in the military, they're like, sure, you've never smoked a cigarette. Never have. Yeah. When I got hired in law enforcement, they're like, you check the box no for marijuana. I'm like, yeah. Never? I'm like, no, never. They're like, okay, you live in Oregon, please. Yeah. Like the marijuana capital of the world. Like, no. However, with all the science and studies that are out there now, what's crazy with the laws, and I don't know what it's like in Wisconsin, but marijuana is legal in Oregon. Not for cops.
Right.
Not for cops. By agency policy.
Sure. Yep.
Not law, right? But it's crazy because agency policy, what they stand behind is, but it's against the law federally, so we can't. Well, that's weird. We don't enforce federal laws, so that has no bearing. They use it. So what you're saying is, it's not okay for a deputy or officer to take a gummy on a Friday night to decompress. And I'm not saying party. We ain't out doing Molly. I'm talking about taking whatever strain of THC. You're not okay with them doing that. However, it's perfectly fine by you policy-wise, if they just bury themselves in a vodka or whiskey bottle
Right.
all weekend long and then come
Yep.
back to work on Monday, like, I'm good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there are medicinal values to marijuana. Everybody knows that. Whether you choose to believe it or want to, take part, that's fine.
Right.
I don't take. I'll be honest. I'm definitely afraid to try it. It would scare
Right.
shit out of me. Like, and I'm not a big drinker. I've been,
Yeah.
but it's interesting to me too that there's not enough they're not willing to educate themselves on that aspect of the marijuana thing. Now, I'm not saying you should be high or impaired, whatever, while you're working on any job, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
how
'cause-
did you?
Go
ahead. No.
Oh, I was just gonna talk about my positive coping skills now. I walk a lot. I like to hike, kayak. I
Nice.
eat healthy. I've lost 35 pounds, and
Good for you.
my clothes fit better. I'm more comfortable.
Right.
So that's kind of a confidence boost right there too. And
Yeah.
I've learned from my past. I've learned that those poor coping skills don't work for me, and I'm not going back there. It didn't help. It only made things worse. It may have felt like it was working momentarily, but it did nothing but cause me more anxiety, more stress, more depression, more worry. It just wasn't helpful at all.
Because it's wrong, right?
Right.
Wrong. It's
Right.
wrong. So it weighs on you more. And people that know me, I'm a huge proponent of fitness. I'm a fitness guy. Love fitness, love teaching fitness, and I'm not some giant roided out guy. I'm fit. And I love fitness. And exercise has been a huge stress combatant for me.
Oh, sure.
Right? It's between exercise, meditation, prayer time, but some of the things that you keyed on, like in reading your bio, is that support circle. That is so huge. Knowing that you're not alone and that these people, no matter what you do for a job, these people still love you. Right. And that's all that matters. It's all that matters.
My current chief, Sean McGee, he supports me 100%. And our police department has a lake patrol. And I remember the moment we kind of had that heart-to-heart. We're out on the boat, and he goes, I know you speak about your mental health, and I'm okay with it. I support it. If you want to continue to speak, go right ahead. You can even wear your uniform if you want.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And he does. He absolutely supports me, and it's a great feeling. It's one of the only reasons why I could be here talking with you today is knowing that he's read some of my articles that I wrote. He's watched some of the podcasts I've been on, and it's okay. He understands that I struggled and that I'm not that way anymore, but that now I have a mission to go out and let everybody know that it's okay to talk about your mental health. It's okay to get help. Don't suffer in silence. And Chief McGee supports me, and it's great. I'm really blessed. I truly am blessed to have a chief like that now.
Jeez.
Yeah, we're blessed that you're able to come on here today.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, and I have to say, like, this is man, this is just God's work. Like Mitch had hounded me for weeks. He's like, let's do a podcast. And I'll be honest. My response was, quote, "Fuck you," unquote. I'm not doing a podcast, bro. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. And he tormented me. And I'm like, fine, let's see what happens. Right. And then we get this email from this dude in Wisconsin. Like, what the hell? Like, we literally just recorded this 24 hours ago and put it out. And this dude in Wisconsin's what? Like, we've got there's a sergeant from NYPD.
Oh, cool.
Retired. A dispatcher from El Dorado County. Cool. Officers in Utah. And we're like, what is happening? Like, crazy. So
that's good stuff.
I'd really like to get into depth and give some plugs. Like, what brought you to this organization that you're the founder of, and tell us about Stop the Threat, Stop the Stigma. This is the best part.
Right. Well, I'm the founder of Stop the Threat, Stop the Stigma. And like I said before, I started speaking about my mental health challenges personally and professionally back in 2019 at a college in Wisconsin. And actually in December 2020, then I created a Facebook page, and my my some of my colleagues at the former police department I worked for said, "Hey, why don't you make it an LLC? Why don't you get a website going? Why don't you do all this extra stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I did create an LLC, Stop the Threat, Stop the Stigma. I don't get paid to do podcasts. I don't get paid to write articles. I haven't gotten paid to, speak at colleges. And although
I'd like to reiterate, we ain't paying you shit. I'm just saying.
Nope.
I'm kidding.
And,
I'm kidding.
Right. So I created Stop the Threat, Stop the Stigma in hopes that it'll bring awareness to mental health and law enforcement, those who work in the public safety profession, and in hopes that by me sharing my experience, it might inspire others to do the same, or others to reach out, or others to help people who might be struggling. So if you actually look at my logo, the top part is a police officer with a gun to his head, and underneath is the same thing. And that's kind of similar to what I experienced when I put my gun to my head about 12 times. And the stigma is real. It's getting better. I don't think it'll ever go away, but it's getting better. And what I do is I have Stop the Threat, stopthestigma.org. If you visit there, you can see some of the things that I've done. You can also see some stats, law enforcement deaths, suicides, and some other resources that you can use to reach out to if you're struggling with mental health, or somebody who may be struggling. In the name Stop the Threat, Stop the Stigma, I think Stop the Stigma is kind of self-explanatory, but Stop the Threat, stopping the threat is the threat of you not taking care of your mental health. In my shooting, I stopped the threat, the person that was coming after me with a hatchet, but later on, I needed to work on stopping the threat of my mental health taking over, ruining my career, ruining ruining Adam. I'm obviously a different person right now than I ever have been because of my experience, but I don't see that as a bad thing. I mean, I went through a lot of crap and it sucked. It sucked really bad, and that's putting it lightly, but I do believe God put me on this path. Sometimes I get pissed off at him because it's like, I didn't want to do this.
Yep.
But now that when I do it, it's helping other people, and that's what it's all about. There was one time I spoke at a conference, and while I was driving back home, I received a message from a female correction officer, and she said, "Thank you very much for coming down and speaking at the conference. My boyfriend was struggling with a lot of stuff, and you really highlighted a lot of stuff I didn't understand, so I really appreciate it." And that's what it's all about. I mean, if I can share my experience and help at least one person, then mission accomplished. And that's what I want to do.
So awesome.
It's not an easy thing to do, but it's worth it.
Well, mission accomplished here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. Like I'm so excited just to hear the feedback just from these 2 episodes. And I really hope that because we're on the West Coast and you're in, as we say, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I really hope that people here will go to your website and reach out that way too, because resources are resources. Like tap in, and such an awesome common goal between us is shielded voices breaking the silence, stop the stigma, it's the common goal. And I'll be honest, I don't know. Are there hundreds of other podcasters doing this? I would assume so. And I'm hoping that we can just reach that 1 or 2, like you said. If we can reach one, just one.
Right. And what I want people to know is, if you're struggling with mental health, if you can find that one person that you trust, that one person you can vent to, do that. You don't have to get on a podcast like I'm doing right now and telling it, air your dirty laundry and tell everybody all the things you've done in the past. If you can just find that one person that you can confide in, that you can trust, go to that person.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that's going to be so helpful. And if you know somebody's struggling, please reach out to them in a text message, an email, a phone call, face-to-face, because it really does mean a lot to that person, even if they deny it. It really means a lot.
Matters the most. It truly does.
Yeah, it does. Hearing from your people It absolutely does. You know, there's a verse in Isaiah that I want to read. It says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And look, there's people out there that are listening that don't believe in God, and that's fine. I'm not trying to preach God to you.
Sure.
That says it all for me. God's got this. And if you can reach out to somebody else, let them have that for you. Let them be your army. Let them be your support. Please, I beg you.
Right. I agree with you, Brian. And it's, even the naysayers, and I get emails and I get messages from people saying, you shouldn't be a cop. That's what you signed up for, stuff like that. I don't necessarily like those messages, but you know what? We're still talking about mental health.
That's right.
So if you want to send me negative emails and message, that's fine. I'll still read it. And we're still talking about mental health. So I may not like what you have to say or agree with it, but we're still talking about mental health. So
we've had the, I won't say haters, but
right.
For lack of a better term, we'll say haters. I don't think they're haters, just some grumblings. Yeah. But it was brought to my attention by somebody like, bro, you got haters already? That's a success.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
You already have haters? I'm like, well, that's a great way of looking at it. Like, okay, I'm good with that. Like, right. I'm okay with not being liked. It's okay. I'm good with it. Good with it. So, well, let's do this, man. I think, Mitch, I want to make sure that everybody has access to links for Stop the Threat, Stop the Stigma. You're able to put that in maybe the body of this so people can,
that'll be in the description.
Yeah. Does that allow people to contact you directly, Adam, or is it something just where they just visit a website to get resources?
Yeah, they can visit my website and send me a message either through the contact form, or you can also email me at adam@stopthethreat.stopthestigma.org. So
awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So good, man. This was so awesome.
What I do with a lot of people too, once we start chatting, sometimes I even give them my cell phone number, personal cell phone number, and reach out and text back and forth and stuff like that. So it's, and I've got messages from Germany and Australia and Canada.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what really makes me know that it's not just an issue in the United States. I mean, somebody could live thousands of miles away and be a police officer in another country and still struggling with the same stuff that us Americans are struggling with. So it's like, that's just reassuring that it's not just awesome. Here, it's everywhere.
Yeah. Yep. Well, hopefully then, maybe we can, we collab with this. Maybe, I don't know if you have maybe you put a link for this podcast on, there'll be 2 episodes. We got part 1 and part 2. Maybe you can put that on your website so people can hear you talk about it on your website at the same time. Yep. It'd be awesome.
I'll put it on my website, on Facebook. I'll share it all over the place. So absolutely.
Just so that more people can hear you actually. I mean, I know you've done seminars, you've done, articles, but man, the more we can put your message out there, man. So awesome.
I love what you guys are doing, and I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity because,
we love having you, man.
If I can just help one person, that's good stuff right there.
That's our common goal. Goal. Yeah, for absolutely. Sure. All right. Absolutely. Well, with that, we're gonna wrap this up, and thanks, guys, for listening to a pretty awesome wrapped up episode of Shield of Voices. Like I'm literally I got goosebumps, man. This is I can't wait to get this pushed out. It's going to be over the next probably week or 2, and then, man, Adam, if you could spread the word too to get people listening, we got a lot more exciting stuff coming up. And if you could do the like, subscribe, and share and follow and all the neat stuff. There's Mitch even put a Patreon up, and it's not about money, but as far as making a profit, but there's some costs involved with platforms and equipment and stuff like that. So man, with that, Adam, it was so awesome to meet you. Look, you got my phone number, bro. I want to keep in touch for real.
Okay.
I absolutely want to keep in touch.
Yeah.
And if you could email me your addresses, I'll send you a patch and a decal for Stop the Stigma.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, that would be awesome. Love it.
Cool. Well, heartfelt thank you to you.
Love it.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, man. We will catch up. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Okay.
Bye, guys.